Yeah, I'm mainly a cinematographer and director. I'm from Italy, born and raised, but I've been in LA for almost 8 years now.
8 years.
Yeah.
Wow. You're a staple now.
Yeah, it
Which
feels
is-
feels like a lifetime.
So if the government's watching, give him a citizenship. Let him stay. Let him,
Please,
please don't let him leave the country. But yeah. So tell us what you've been doing so far. Any exciting things?
Yeah, I mean, I like work here and there, whatever I can do. I like to do a lot of things, as you said. So, haven't directed in a while, but I've been DPing and gaffing mostly for, the last like few years. And, I've been thinking about shooting something of my own, that I'm supposed to write soon, but it's always hard for me to just get in my chair and, start typing. I am in prep with an animated series that I'm DPing. So
Wait, you can DP an animated?
I know, right? Yeah, it's a whole new adventure. First time,
Wow.
even though my background at the very, very beginning actually comes from VFX. So
Oh, really?
in a way, I'm familiar with some things,
Is this like a
Um,
3D animated?
It is,
Okay,
yeah,
okay.
sort of like think Pixar style, but it's a blend of that and sort of like 2D animated textures and yeah, mix of different genres. And I don't know, again, we're in the early stages, so there's a lot of work to do. There's a script, we shortlisted already, so now it's like up to the animators do the
Yeah.
the big part of the work,
grunt
and
work.
then my other part comes later with camera and lighting, and supposed to be all in like real time with Unreal Engine. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's supposed to be
You have a
cool.
lot going on because right before we shot this, you were telling us about a short that got picked up by Holly Shorts that you're going to show at the festival. Is that you directed it?
Yes, that was my pretty much second effort after my undergrad thesis film. I went back to sci-fi, made another sort of sci-fi, more leaning toward drama this time, but still short film. And I've just been waiting, to, show it at festivals. And so we're going to have our LA premiere soon. And that's pretty
Can we
exciting.
come?
Yeah.
Can we come?
Absolutely.
Yay!
Absolutely. You have to. You
Yeah.
have to.
Okay.
Cool. So then, what is the short film that we're watching today?
I don't know. I haven't seen it in like so. No, kidding. So this is my actual undergrad thesis film.
Okay.
So it's a sci-fi. The idea was kind of born from just thinking of technology as a way of improving the human experience. And I thought, what if in the future we could use technology to help our mental health? And actually, when I was writing this idea, everybody kept mentioning, oh, like it reminds me of Black Mirror here, Black Mirror there. But at the time, I had never, ever watched not even an episode of Black Mirror.
Same.
So I had no idea
Oh,
what they were
really?
talking about,
Yeah.
I got into it like later after I was done with this project because I also did not want to be influenced.
Right.
But then I started to see, okay, sort of the concept of like using technology in like
Right.
a good or a bad way.
Right. And how it
kinda,
interweaves into like our own personal lives and things.
Yeah. So I kind of see what people were talking about, but in my way, I sort of like tried to keep it as positive as I could, and just have it, help our life. Just like, we have technology now to turn the lights on, and Siri doing all the things for us. But, what if we go deeper and just really help us, as human beings? So yeah, the idea is just like, have this woman who has some sort of trauma, from her past, and we don't really know what it is. But through this virtual reality therapy session, she's trying to pretty much uncover the truth, behind it. And I also thought it was fascinating talking to a therapist how our brain can sometimes like shield us from sort
like
of
you
bad
file
memories.
things away.
Yeah, it's like we could have traumas that maybe we don't even remember of because our brain is protecting us from them. And so I kind of wanted to dive deeper into this sort of idea and explore it in kind of like you could call it like a video game world, where she is interacting, with her trauma in real time, and she's fully immersed in this experience. But it's doing more than just playing a game. It's actually like helping her get over, her past.
So you did this for your undergraduate thesis, and you came up with the idea? You spoke with therapists about this idea and everything.
Yeah, it was a bunch of dad and personal exploration, and of course, like through teachers, whenever they follow you in screenwriting classes. And so I wrote it, and I needed to direct it as part of the program. But because I love cinematography so much, I decided to shoot it myself as well.
Wow.
And not only shoot it, but also I was operating the camera while I was directing.
You don't let anyone help.
Right? How hard is that?
It was pretty hard
Yeah.
because, there was a lot of handheld in the movie that I used like a special rig for. And so I kind of had the camera on me all the time. And, trying to talk to actors while there's this big camera in front of you, and it was a lot. It was a lot. So I would not recommend it, just get a camera operator like I did on my other project, and that's so much easier. It leaves you more time with your actors, and, overall it's just like,
But I bet you learned a lot from it. So.
Oh, no, for sure. What to do and what not to do. And yeah, I mean, it was a fun experience, honestly. Like, I had so much fun, and also the whole timing of the project was we shot this in March 2020, right before the pandemic, or I guess the peak of the pandemic.
Yeah, the beginning, yeah.
Yeah, so I got really lucky because I was actually the last one of my class to be able to shoot a thesis film. And I wrapped this literally the day before school closed.
So what did everyone else have to do? Like do it over Zoom?
Well, yeah, because they were not able to shoot their films, they had to pretty much, I guess as part of the editing class, edit a short film kind of from like stock footage.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they didn't have their material to edit, but they still had that class. So it was kind of weird because, 11 of us were just working with that stock footage over and over, and trying to do their own version. And then the 3 of us that had our thesis film.
Is it possible to like come up with a story using just stock footage?
I mean, they were able to. Were they all similar? Kind of, because, there's only so much you can do. But it was, okay. Definitely they did not have as much fun as, me editing my own project. Because I cared about my story. They, unfortunately, it was something, that they were given. So yeah, I was extremely lucky with that. And I think we shot this in like 3 days and a half. And it was a lot to pull off in that limited amount of time. But yeah, again, it was a very fun experience.
It's kind of a bummer. Like you spend all this time and money to go to film school, and then the last year when you want to make your mark in this world, you got to use stock footage.
I know, right? I wonder what kind of stock footage it was. But so this took you 3 days and a half to film.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Right. And how was raising money for it? How'd you come up with that?
That you should ask my parents.
Oh yeah,
they're the executive producers.
Oh,
okay,
so
nice.
So let's say I had a good pitch,
Yeah.
It's like, hey, parents. No, it was pretty much self-funded, and so I actually ended up going under budget from what I had originally planned. Mostly because sort of last minute I decided to do all the visual effects myself instead of like finding people to do that. Which did save me a lot of money, and added a whole bunch of stress that I was not, predicting. But
you did all of it yourself?
Yeah,
because
it was a lot.
We already watched it, and I'm like, wow, very, very, very impressed.
It was a lot because, again, I started with VFX originally. I kind of had the knowledge there. I just knew that it would be a lot, and so I was telling myself, don't do it, Nick, don't do it, because you're going to be so stressed out at the end of it. And it was a whole process even in post, because I just had to spend so many sleepless nights to be able to make it for our original deadline. And, computers can only go so fast, and I had like a 2014 iMac, to be able, it was a lot on the computer. It was a lot on me, and I mean, I gotta say, being able to at least like take classes online during the pandemic kind of helped me because it gave me so much more time, that I would have spent like even just like walking to school and, being there for hours. So, can't say that my teacher maybe were too happy, but like I have to admit that I was working on my movie also during classes, So while I was on Zoom, I was also multitasking and trying to like, get things done to the point where I think one day I was so into like what I was doing that I did forget that class was starting. and I did not show up to class on Zoom because I looked at the time and it was like already 2 hours in, and I'm like, well,
I'm already late.
I kind of missed it at this point. But in that way, it did help me to have more and more time to work on it. And I mean, I'm a workaholic, so, you know, if I can put the effort, I will put the effort. So
And you'll do every aspect of it yourself.
yeah. And the actual fun part was that even being a perfectionist doesn't help, you know. And so the version that I did send to festivals that I turned into school is not the version that we're watching, actually, because a year later, before I put it on YouTube, I felt that the visual effects could be improved. And so I did go back and sort of re-rendered or reworked most of them to kind of make them look more, you know, to like really what I intended originally, without, you know, having to rush, you know, to turn into school and all of that stuff. So I kind of went back with an open mind, see what I could improve without going too crazy, because it actually turned out that a lot of the files that I had on my computer were not backed up on my drive. And unfortunately, when I upgraded to a new OS, some files did get corrupted, and I did not want to go back and do animation or remodeling 3D objects that I did not have anymore. So some things had to be, but I'm actually happy that I was able to go back and kind of finish it properly, because it definitely did pay off in the end. So I'm pretty happy with the end result now.
Awesome.
That's awesome. All right,
Should
then
we start it?
Yeah, let's watch it.
Yeah, let's do it.
Retrieval.
Hey.
So is Dust... That's not the title. That's the name of the YouTube.
They picked up the film after they saw it on YouTube, and they have a YouTube channel where they showcase sci-fi short films, and they get millions of views. So I was really happy to have it there.
You have a lot of views on this one too.
Yeah.
Where'd you find this location? Just on...
Yeah, this one
Spearspace?
was Spearspace. I had to find something that looked like nice and clean and relaxing to sort of contrast with the rest of the movie. So yeah, the house was just a half-day shoot over there, and you can tell visually looks completely different from where the virtual reality like world takes place.
Right.
How was it working with a child actor?
That was fun. It wasn't my first time, but also she was amazing, and she was one of the first movies she had ever been in. So I was like very pleased with her acting and just how nice she was on set, really.
Nice.
So this is a set that you fully built out.
Yeah, so the hallway in the film, it's supposed to be part of, you know, this abandoned version of our house, and we had to build it for a few reasons. And in this scene, you can probably kind of tell the reason why is when I wrote the script, I wanted the walls of the hallway to kind of like, you know, start moving in and like trap her, you know, because it's sort of like the first threat that she has to pretty much witness, you know, in her mind. And of course you can't do it with a real house, so you know, those are 4 walls of flats that we built on casters so they could be able to move.
Okay.
And that was actually the scariest thing ever, because I was just sitting on an Apple box hoping not to get crashed, you know. And it was so loud when we had to like move them because they were extremely heavy, and I had my entire crew push them, so that was a lot.
So where did you build it? Was it on the school campus?
No, I was on a sound stage. Yeah, and really the production design team did an amazing job trying to match it with this, which is the practical house that we shot at.
Okay.
With a lot, of course, like dressing involved, but yeah, and because of that, behind him, technically it's supposed to be the hallway where we're in, but it's actually a green screen, you know, that we had to.
Wow,
to
you fooled
have.
me. I would have thought that was like the same hallway or
Yeah,
just a hallway in general.
Yeah, I needed to connect the location somehow, so that was my solution.
So you 3D modeled the monster.
Yeah, the monster's
That's
3D modeled from
crazy.
scratch, designed from scratch, rigged and all, and I did all of it. And some of it I didn't even know how to do it, so I kind of just taught myself, you know. It's like
Yeah.
experimenting
Nice.
and
You
seeing.
gotta.
But yeah, the idea is that she goes through this sort of like abandoned version of her childhood home, you know, and of course like it's dusty and it's full of secrets, dark secrets, and we don't really know what's going on, but she's been there multiple times, you know, because it's not her first therapy session that she's had. And there's this man in her mind. We don't really know who that comes from, and it will be revealed later.
Right.
But he's there to help her. And in the meantime, always the monster lurking.
How did you make the drapery like glow?
I think that's just like the color of it together with the lighting. It ended up, you know, was it intentional? I don't know. Does it look nice though?
Yeah, it looks like
So it was
ghostly.
intentional then.
It's one of those like happy accidents, I
Yeah.
guess.
I've been here before.
And then the lights, is that in post as well on their guns?
No, that's practicals. We had just flashlights rigged on the guns that were just like plastic guns painted, you know, to look a little more realistic.
Right.
Yeah, a lot going on. I tried to like fit in as much action as I could because it was sort of like my bucket list of directing things to do. Is I just tried to have some action sequences, you know, that are fun to play with for the actors, with stunts and camera wise.
So sci-fi is like where you want to end up.
Yeah, for sure. I love sci-fi, just the world building, and you can do so many cool things visually, you know, production design wise, visual effects wise, but I think it's just a cool world, so I would want to live in a sci-fi world if I can. But of course, you know, those stories have to feel grounded in a way.
Yeah.
You know, you can't just like make it up and then, you know, hope that people will resonate with them, because it might be a little harder. So
Yeah, it needs
always
to have
trying to
some
find
sort
the
of, like,
core.
human element to it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Where'd you find these actors?
That was backstage. All of
Backstage?
it, yeah, casting.
Nice.
Yeah, I was very pleased with all of them, and Sarah, the lead, she put so much effort, and I mean, I feel bad for her because she had to go through so many things, you know, on set to get into the proper mood for the scenes, because it's definitely not an easy role. But she was amazing.
What was the most expensive part of this?
I would say probably locations. Yeah. They took a big chunk of the budget. Yeah, this one, if you want to pause it, it's one of the big changes that happen in the script. There are quite a few through the editing and also through the rewrites, but mostly through the editing, I ended up kind of rewriting the movie in a way, because originally it was not even supposed to start in the therapy office. It was supposed to start in the simulation already, so we didn't even know it was a simulation. And not only that, but the big reveal of the film, which is like this monster that lurks in the darkness of her mind, is actually like her father, you know, like pretty much murdering the mother when she was a child. Originally, that shot where we do see the monster coming in, and finally there's a realization of like, wait, that's actually my father. Originally, I had the father walk in, you know,
Right.
directly, instead of revealing, oh, we go from the monster to the father. And then watching the first cuts, I just realized that it would have been way bigger of a shock, you know, if we realized, like, as she is realizing that, oh, wow, the monster that we've been seeing is actually the father. Because in my original version, actually, the monster, after the reveal, was coming back, and she kind of had this, like, final confrontation with him. But it felt, you know, watching the film, that really the moment of realization was a confrontation, you know. And so, unfortunately, because the way I shot it originally, the father was in all the shots, you know, walking in. So I had to paint him out in post so that I could put the monster in. Yeah.
So just
Which-
frame by frame.
Yeah, pretty much. And you know, the way I shot it, really, it was not intended for CGI in those scenes, so I had a lot of like glare coming from the practicals, you know, and the lenses that I use are vintage anamorphic lenses, so you know, they're not clean. So there was a lot of things that unfortunately I did not take into consideration, and then I had to deal with in post, which I didn't mind, but also didn't make
But
it.
it looks great.
Yeah, no, definitely. I'm very pleased with like the way it looks. I'm pleased with my choices in terms of cinematography and I think it fits, overall the story, but yeah, it was definitely challenging, kind of like, sort of make these last minute changes effective in terms of what I can do in post myself, without shooting myself in the foot, but also, what is at the end of it, like what's best for the story, and so yeah, these changes definitely made the movie way better, I think. But yeah, that was sort of like a fun little, fun fact.
Did you edit this movie yourself, or?
Yes,
So
I forgot. It's like, yeah, I did, and I wasn't going to at first, but because again of all the additional time that I had during COVID, I figured I would give it a try and see what happened. And I think that's probably where my love of editing ended. After this movie, I think I'm probably over it. It was just probably too much, too many hats that I was trying to wear. So that was really the biggest learning lesson.
Yeah. Did you sleep?
No, I didn't sleep. That's why. And do I sleep now? Not really. But yeah, I mean, it was really just overall, I think, understanding that it's nice to have collaborators that you can trust because they can bring their own perspective toward a project. And I kind of didn't have that for this one. And I feel like maybe it could have been even better, if I had more people working on it and contributing. So, yeah, I did it all myself. I don't think I would do the same, for future projects, just because I do like, having other people come in with their talents.
Yeah.
And
But yeah, that is like a learning curve in and of itself, like delegating your work to somebody else.
Being a leader and,
Yeah.
delegating certain jobs and things that they have to accomplish.
Yeah, and it can be scary, especially if you haven't worked with these people before. You never know.
Yeah, it's your baby. You don't want, you have a certain vision, and if you don't say it right, you get like,
you might not
the
get
whole movie
you
down,
might not
but
you
it's
just
like,
might not get the vision that you want.
And you're like, well, how do I fix this in some sort of way?
But it's a good skill to develop, because as a director especially, you need to be able to know how to communicate properly to your team so that they can achieve your vision, instead of doing something completely different and you're like not happy with it. Which even in this one, yes, I did micromanage a lot, so maybe, my team was also not too happy with it. But it did end up, very close to what I wanted originally, and it's a good feeling because it proves that, I had a nice vision to begin with, and then seeing it, on the screen, it's very, very rewarding. But definitely, yeah, taught me, the importance of, for instance, like having a lot of references, to show to your crew of what you're trying to go for so that they can get as close as possible. And then also the importance of listening to what they also can suggest, because sometimes their ideas are much better than yours. And it's something you would have never considered, but, there you go. Now you have a much better idea that might even end up saving you money and time, and it's 10 times more effective than what you had. So
not only that, I feel like it builds the team when
Absolutely,
they
yeah.
feel like they can input.
What was the timeline? So your pre-production was how long, would you say?
Definitely at least a couple of months, maybe honestly like 3 months. Yeah, from when we had a sort of almost locked script where I started looking for locations, I started putting together like sort of ideas for equipment that I might use, and just researching like the color palette, and yeah, definitely a couple of months. I do like to put as much work in prep as I can, because it does lead to a smoother experience on set. And also because you're wearing so many hats on set, you don't want to be thinking about extra things.
Did you have a producer with you, or?
I did have a producer who helped me. Because I tend to micromanage, I did end up producing most of it, myself. So I kind of have my producers usually deal with permits, paperwork, all the things that I don't like. Crafty food, like all these things.
Okay. I have more questions, but I feel like I'll ask them at the end.
Oh yeah, go for it. But yeah, we can resume for sure. Yeah, her performance is just so good and so heartbreaking.
Yeah, they look the same too.
Yeah.
The
little
kid
girl.
and the lead actress.
Right.
Yeah.
There he is again.
Yeah, it's kind of like the reveal of the man in.
Who's the
her
second
mind.
officer? Was he part of the crew?
He was. Yeah, my costume designer, we got a second cop uniform, and nobody was able to fit in it except for one of my classmates, who was the grip. And so we actually asked him, could you please be in the movie? And yeah, the reveal of Johnson being the cop that kind of like saved her, you know, when she was a child. It kind of inspired by the rabbit hole in Alice in Wonderland. Just kind of like the idea of like coming out of her mind, you know, just coming out of the rabbit hole and
Right.
going back to reality. Yeah, and then go back to the nice and clean visuals where she can finally
She looks
be
so
happy.
different.
She does.
Right,
Yeah,
in
she
the
does.
Different makeup.
Yeah, makeup,
The
the outfits,
clothing.
it all like helped so much.
You can't change our past.
So you did this.
You can
Yes, I did.
Wow.
move on.
How are you feeling?
And actually, I think if I remember correctly, the day that we filmed this, it was actually raining
We all have the
outside.
same moment.
No way. What?
And I wanted it to look very sunny and
Yeah.
peaceful. And so, yeah,
After all this
you
time,
can't tell, but it was.
I'm finally awake.
Okay, so my question is,
Yes.
when she shoots the mom,
Mhm.
is it because she thinks it's her fault?
In a way, yes. In a way, yes. The idea is that, you know, she thinks the monster's going to pop up again and then, you know, it's the mother instead. But yeah, definitely the guilt of her, you know, of course, as a child, you know, she hopes that she could have, you know, helped her, but unfortunately that wasn't, you know, the case. And so, yeah, she has this sort of like underlying guilt that, you know, follows her everywhere. And that's why the mom, you know, pops up, you know, from time to time in her world, you know, to sort of like haunt her in a way. I mean, she's really there to tell her like, hey, it's really not your fault, you know, and she does tell her, but of course, like it takes time for her to process all of this. And so she's like slowly accepting, you know, the idea that, you know, I was just a child. I couldn't do much, you know, but now I'm able to at least realize that. Yeah.
And then my other question is, the main cop, when we first see him, he says a line that he says again at the end. Was that intentional?
When we first see him
In
what
like
does he
the
say?
hallway, like the fake.
Oh
world.
yes, like he asks her pretty much like, "Are you okay?" Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was sort of like an idea of like mirroring that moment, you know, because he's there to check on her. And really the idea with that character was also, and it's kind of like very easy to miss, but her picture in sort of like that translucent iPad that the therapist is holding, can't really see too much, but she's also wearing a cop uniform, because the idea is that after, you know, she grew up probably with this new fatherly
first
figure, you
scene?
know, so like on the iPad when you see her during the therapy session, it's kind of like a little, you know, like detail, but the idea is that she also became a cop because, like, you know, he saved her, you know, as a child, and so they probably grew closer together as she's grown older, and so she decided to sort of, you know. Yeah, so little Easter egg, I would say. But yeah, there's a lot of things about the characters that it's so hard to fit in a 10-minute short.
Yeah.
So you know, the idea for this film was also to hopefully be a proof of concept for something. And I do tell myself, you know, eventually we'll get to
Right,
it and
like the
write a
feature version?
script, you know, for a feature or a series, who knows, you know. I haven't had the time yet, and again, I'm not that amazing at screenwriting in general, especially now, you know, as a cinematographer. It's easier for me to think about the visuals, you know, but it's a little tougher to sit down and write the script, unless like I have to write, you know, like in forms of storyboards. That's just so much easier, you know, to convey the story visually.
Yeah, you could do it that way. Start off with storyboards and then write it.
A lot of
Exactly
my
does, yeah.
yeah, a lot of my early films were like that. Where I would not even bother writing a script. I would just have the beats, you know, lay down as literally
And then
storyboards,
just like write the dialogue in the corner.
yeah,
Just make it
kind
up
of.
yourself, guys.
Yeah, kind of.
Improv it.
And even, you know, overall, like I always try not to have too much dialogue in my films, just because I'm bad at writing dialogue, and so
It's hard.
I'm aware of that. And also just like I like to feel things through the visuals. And so seeing, you know, something like a white shot and this little person in it, you know, it makes me feel something versus like telling me how to feel, you know. And so for me, it's easier to not think about dialogue too much and just kind of like through the action and then on set, like the blocking and the actor's performance convey what I want.
Did you use what camera did you use?
This was shot on the Alexa Mini. Yeah, it was the Alexa Mini with Lomo round front anamorphics.
Nice, very nice.
I'm just hearing words.
It no, I think it was a good choice because again, we had a lot of handheld, so I needed something that was fairly light. And those anamorphic lenses were not light at all. So the lenses were huge, and so I just needed a small camera that could handle it. But also that I could trust in terms of dynamic range and just handle all the sort of weird lighting that I wanted to go for. So yeah, we just got a good deal from a rental house, and really I got everything that I wanted, if not even more, you know. I like to have options on set in case you change your mind and then you want to do something completely different. Without of course like going crazy over budget. But yeah, no, in terms of equipment and crew, everything worked out amazing. So
right, the sound design in this film is pretty good too.
Oh my gosh,
did you do that yourself as well, or
no?
I wouldn't have been surprised if you said
Foley
yeah.
artist now.
That's the one thing I did not do myself, because yes, I know how to do it. Am I good at it? Probably not. So I can do a simple mix, but just recording all the like the Foley and just really being intentional with the sound design, it's not something that is on top of my head. So I did find somebody that honestly was a million times more professional than I even could have hoped for. And they did an amazing job, not only with the mixing, but just overall coming up with the sound design to convey that we're in this sort of like dark mental state, you know, throughout the film. And yeah, just mixing the dialogue, like all those things. I was just mind blown, you know, even when I heard the first draft, I was like, wow, to me, like, this is like perfect already. And they're like, no, we can also like add this and add that.
Ooh, wait, we need to get his contact.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. And they also did my latest film, and even that blew my mind once again. So, you know, it's definitely worth investing money in sound, because really it can throw you off if it's not done well. And when it's done properly, it can enhance the experience.
Yeah, it's so
you know,
immersive.
you should hear this in theaters. Like it's amazing. It's just, you know,
was
the
this shown
surround.
in a theater?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
When it did at festival.
The movie went to a whole bunch of festivals actually, and it
must
did
been so
screen at the TCL Chinese, and
Nice.
it also screened at AMC 16 in Burbank. So I heard it a bunch of times in the proper, you know, like 5.1 mix, and yeah. It's amazing to see it on a huge screen, you know, with proper sound and with an audience. Like, that's the best part, because you never know.
Do you ever just turn around and just like look at people
Oh
watching
yeah,
it?
I would try to always like honestly sit in the back so that I could see everybody and their reactions, you know, when they would gasp and like when they would laugh. And so it's always very interesting, because you never know how people are gonna react to things. And some stuff, you know, you can be very intentional, but then people, you know, maybe they just don't even pay attention to that. But then they pay attention to just like something very, very small that you didn't even think of.
Yeah.
And the best part, honestly, is having the film out there, you know, like not only just like at festivals, but people watching it online and commenting, you know. I was so surprised. I'm like, why would anybody care about a just random short film that they're watching online, you know? But I was so wrong, because there's just so many people commenting either that they liked it or not. And I mean, whatever, you know, they thought of the movie, I think it's like very interesting, you know, that they took the time to share, because it means a lot to a filmmaker, you know, that took all this time and money, you know, to make a film. And so of course, like it's great to hear the good, you know, positive feedback, you know, but even, you know, like just like some things that people might have not liked, you know, it's always good to know, because you can keep it in mind for next, you know, film and learn from it. And yeah, even people like took their time to write reviews on Letterboxd. I was like, what?
I need to see
randomly
these.
found out. I'm like, how did they even like, they looked up the movie,
Yeah.
took the time to write a review, and I was like, wow, that's like,
Oh, that's awesome.
thank you for your time,
Yeah.
you know, like, I'm sorry maybe you didn't like the movie, but it's actually nice that you took your time.
Yeah.
There's an audience out there for sure.
Yeah.
That's why the whole reason we made this podcast was just to get it out there for people like
No,
you
yeah.
and us.
It's nice. It's honestly reassuring in a way because at least like you know that it's out there and people are watching it.
Yeah.
And
that people are interested in seeing more short films.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely keeps the hopes up, especially because lately it's just filmmaking is more competitive. There's so much more content. And seems like there's in a way more festivals, but it seems like there's like less festivals or like less credible festivals. So they program either less short films or just the selection process is way more competitive, and so it's harder to get in.
And now we're also competing with verticals. I went to a short
yes.
film festival, and there was a vertical
Mhm.
in theater. Like at the Chinese theater, I saw a vertical.
Yeah.
A waste of a theater.
And I was
And
like, what is happening?
I mean, it's not only that, but like there's vertical films screening at the Academy Museum. Yeah, there's an exhibit where just vertical films literally screening on a huge wall.
If
But
they're good,
I mean, if they're good,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, I have no.
yeah, I mean, personally, not my thing yet. But it's definitely an emerging format. So, why not, give it
The
a
one
try.
I watched was Vampires versus Werewolves.
Oh,
Love
that's
story,
fun.
that
It's
kind of.
always
Yeah, it's
It's
always
vampires,
that.
Who won?
Yeah.
I don't remember. I think I left.
Well,
Have you worked on a vertical?
I have gaffed a bunch. I haven't DP'd one yet. Can't say that I am eager to work on one, honestly, just because the way I like to frame is exactly the opposite. I like nice wide frames where I use all the horizontal plane, of the image. And so I think it'd be hard for me to just sort of adapt to the complete opposite, and make it work for the story. But hey, if the story is really, really good and that's the format they pick, I would definitely give it a try and see.
Yeah.
Because honestly, you never know. It's like I learned to never say no because you never really know with your career, where things could take you.
Yeah, so we shouldn't say anything because
I know I've worked
Because
a
we
bunch
were
of
worked
those,
on
but I
it.
mean, yeah, but still,
How did you love it?
well, I mean,
it's a payday.
yeah.
Right?
Payday, that's pretty
Please hire
good.
us
But
again.
yeah, no. So what can you tell us about your project that's going to go on a festival run? What is it titled? If
The title
if I
is
can
Alpha 27.
ask? Alpha 27. Okay.
And it's another sci-fi film, but it's really more set into a sci-fi world because it's set in the future, but it's really a drama about a guy that comes from a space colony. So like he comes from technically another world, and he has spent the last almost like 10 years of his life on Earth, and because of that now he has a family, has a life here. But now there's a threat of a interstellar war, and so unfortunately he is forced to go back to his space colony and leave Earth, and of course you can imagine how heartbreaking that might be for somebody, that they have to like leave 10 years of their life behind, As the movie, it's pretty much about his struggle of accepting the situation and what he can do about it.
Is this a commentary on being in America
Yeah,
for
definitely.
almost 10 years? And the
Yeah.
war is, please give me a visa.
Yeah, the movie is about, the idea
I
of...
star in it. I directed it. I wrote it.
It's definitely autobiographical. It's a commentary about immigration and just, how hard it is even for filmmakers, that study here. And in a way are trying to just like use the skills that they learned through the years of film school or not film school, and now are trying to work in the industry. And, the biggest really chunk of the industry is here. And so people, trying to stay in LA, but the process of it is just being incredibly complicated and convoluted. And so, yeah, just that. And the idea of, even just thinking of the future in general, not really knowing where you might be and what could happen, like if you have to really say goodbye to, the life you've spent in a place and the people you've met. And, it's just sort of like scary. So that, the story really came from that because it's just been on my mind, lately, knowing not really what the future might have for me. And yeah, so I mean, of course, once you write it, then it becomes the character's story. So yes, it is autobiographical, at least at first, and then it kind of turned into the story of Diego and his boyfriend and how they can, uh, really deal with the stress and kind of like really just pain that this whole situation brings upon them.
I'm excited to watch it. When is it showing?
It's gonna be premiering at the beginning of August at the Chinese. And yeah, more information coming soon because I don't even know.
That's awesome. Okay, yeah, nice.
Anywhere that you want people to follow you or to watch your work?
Oh, yeah, sure. Well, Instagram is always a good place. Nick Azzaro, literally my name. And
With 2 Z's.
yeah,
2 Z's, 1 R.
2 Z's and 1 R. It's literally like the fashion brand, or they also have like perfumes and stuff. But sometimes you see, I think like who is the guy that does like the ad? I forgot if it's like Johnny Depp or somebody else, but
The one when he was riding a horse, was it, what's his
I think so. It might be somebody else actually, but yeah,
Adam
there's a
Driver?
brand with the same, huh?
Adam Driver?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Wait, is it? You know what? It's
But he
one
is-
of them. It's
yeah,
one
yeah.
of them. But yeah, Nick Azzaro on Instagram. And on my website has my latest work. But yeah, I mean, again, I'm really trying to, to be a cinematographer mainly as of now. And I love lighting. I love, cameras. But whenever I can, I definitely do want to go back to directing because it's always fun seeing your vision come to life and just mostly bringing people together, because you're really at the end of a shoot, no matter like how like short or long it is, you have your own little family. And I think like that's the best part of it. So I'm always looking forward to that. And yeah, meeting new
That's
people.
how we met too. So
That's true. Yeah.
Mhm.
Here we are. Right.
yeah, exactly.
Now we're doing podcasts.
Yeah. It's cool. Filmmaking is cool. So
We're about 10 minutes. I like to ask this question to all the guests. What was the last film you saw?
okay.
It doesn't have
Last
to be
film.
a theater. It doesn't have to.
I think
be
in
last
theaters,
year's.
I watched Inside Out too.
Okay.
Yeah, and then I think tomorrow I'm going to see the new Quiet Place
Mhm.
and Kinds of Kindness. But yeah, Inside Out was cool. I really loved the first one. I thought it was like one of those like Pixar movies that are for kids, like all of them, but also there's so much depth that even an adult, can see a lot
How
of
was
things. I would say I'm a little disappointed in the second
No.
one because it was still very fun and entertaining, but I think the depth of the first one was not quite there. And so definitely I saw myself in some moments, especially
When did you watch it? Sorry.
I watched it like a couple weeks ago.
No, but like at what time in the theater? Because
Why?
like, the kids ruined it. I don't know. I'm a big proponent. If I'm gonna go watch a kids movie, I have to watch it like at 8 or at 9 p.m.
It was
because
not
the
full
kids-
of kids, and it was also not like the first week. So like it was actually no. The experience in the theater was nice and undisturbed. I was able to enjoy it, and I mean, it seemed like the audience really had a lot of like good moments throughout the movie where they just like were laughing. So definitely the humor of the movie worked very well, and the character of anxiety, I thought it was like very well fleshed out, and I did myself like see like so many things that I do, and that character does, and it was
Made
fun.
Me cry.
Mhm.
First one made you cry?
Yeah.
I don't remember much
Yeah.
of the first one.
That's why I was hoping that the second one would also kind of
Make
get
you
me
cry.
there, but it was I think like more entertaining than really emotional, this time.
You know what we watched yesterday?
What?
What did we? Oh yeah,
Handsome Guys.
Handsome Guys. It's a Korean film.
Okay.
It's about.
Handsome Kaiju.
Do you know the summary of it?
No, it's based off of the movie something versus evil. Dale versus
Dale
Evil.
Tucker versus Evil.
Something
I think
like
that's
that.
What it was.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it like as like a recent movie or is it?
Yeah.
It was it was recent. We saw it at AMC. It was yesterday, and it's about two guys who buy a house out in the woods, and they're ugly. They're like just hideous people, and so everybody kind of thinks like these
They're
are just like
thugs,
evil,
yeah.
bad, kind of like con thugs people, and then so these group of friends, young adults, all good looking, drive out to like a cabin or not a cabin, a house near where these two guys bought their new house. and things happen, all misunderstanding. They think that they kidnapped one of their friends, and so they go try to save her, but in reality, the two ugly guys saved her, and then a lot of bloodshed. People die accidentally.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
And then
it's so silly.
There's a devil goat involved.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the hand of
like,
God
comes out.
comes out of
It's
nowhere.
so silly.
That
It's a
sounds
funny,
pretty fun,
silly
yeah.
movie.
But you
yeah.
have to go in and you have to just like fully accept that it's gonna be.
A silly movie.
Yeah.
The tempo was so fast. In the
Yeah.
beginning. It just went straight into it. Yeah.
Okay.
I never saw anything like it.
Well, it's good. So it's like a pretty short too, right?
Yeah, it was pretty short. Yeah, the action was nonstop.
I mean, it's good.
Fun.
Sometimes like you need those movies, you know, because
Yeah.
you don't want to be like I make very depressing films. I think this one was pretty sad, but like the new one was even more depressing. So
Yeah.
I told myself that the next movie that I make, it has to be a happy movie.
Yeah, I feel
But
that
you
way.
don't like
I
making
want a
comedies.
fun,
I remember
want a
you
fun
said you don't
movie.
like
I don't
comedy.
like comedies generally. It has
Right.
to be a like sort of smart comedy that doesn't rely on lines. I like visual comedy a lot, you know, so either through the acting or the way it's shot, you know, kind of like Wes Anderson style, like, you know, it has to be that sort of comedy. Otherwise my brain turns off, and
It has to be like circumstantially funny.
yeah. And then it's also annoying when you're like, you know, watching with a group of people and you're not laughing at anything.
Oh yeah, and they're like, "What the hell's wrong with
Yeah.
this?"
Maybe don't
like,
watch Handsome Guys.
Yeah. Yeah. Then you
So,
might.
yeah, for me, it's just hard. And so, you know, I could totally see myself writing like maybe like a dark comedy. And, you know, because maybe I don't watch that many, in a way, I have hope that I could be good at making this sort of film, because I think that when you do watch a lot of the same stuff, you also have a tendency of trying to replicate it. So it's harder to be original. Whereas if you're just diving into something completely unknown, you know, maybe there, because you don't know what you're doing, it could lead to unexpected results. So that's why I'm tempted in the future, you know, to try. But
I want to see a comedy from you.
yeah, me too. I'm like scared, but also like it's kind of like exciting in a way. So who knows? Coming soon, maybe.
Coming soon,
soon
to
after
theaters
this
near
one.
you. All right.
All right.
I think that's it.
Awesome. Thank
Thanks,
you, Nick.
Nick.
Cool. Thank you guys.
Yeah, no, definitely.